I watched your Future Cop LEPD video. Oh, thank you, man. Hope you enjoyed it. Love the video. Type of game I would love to see. Oh, man. I'm not a game developer, and I don't know that much about developing games. I understand narrative structure. I understand acting. I understand flow of a story. I understand, tutorials, but the actual coding to me is magic. You are tricking a rock into thinking using electricity. It's wizardry to me. I have no idea how coding works at all. So when someone says to me, oh, would you like to make a game? I haven't got the first idea how to do it. I would sit down, stare at the coding interface, and then just cry. That's how it would work. But I would happily be involved with the process of people who know it far better than me. I mean, for example, okay, here's a really interesting one. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you this because it's an interesting story. When we went to Jagex to playtest the necromancy skill, which is super cool, by the way. The necromancy skill, I genuinely think it's a good skill. It's a new combat style in RuneScape 3. So you equip weapons and you fight, use necromancy magic. It's an entire new style of damage. And I was sat there and I was thinking, okay, so brand new style, necromancy, ranged kind of attacks thing going on. How does that work? There is a quest in RuneScape where you have to kill the Black Knight Titan. A quest called Holy Grail. I don't want to be the ideas guy. I want to be the guy that asks very specific questions that then get tested. So the Black Knight Titan cannot be killed by melee, mage, or range unless you do the final hit with Excalibur. Can you kill it with necromancy? Can you kill the Black Knight Titan with necromancy damage? And when I said that, there were a couple of developers in the room that kind of went, I don't know. So we just booted up the game, jumped ourselves to that quest, and started attacking the Black Knight Titan just to see what would happen. Turns out a couple of complicated things happened because it was absolutely not programmed to deal with that combat style at all. So what then happened was people who were far smarter than me pulled up the code that was running in the background at the time and went through every single exception that was happening. And they went, oh, right, cool, yeah, I see why that's happening. And the interaction was fixed. But it was fixed pretty much immediately. So one of the reasons that I went to Jagex was I am not a hardcore endgame RuneScape 3 player, but I've played a lot of RuneScape and I understand a lot of the weird small interactions. And that's what I was asking questions about. How does this work with this? How does this work with this? Can we glitch this? I mean, one of them was, on RuneScape, you cannot take any items, weapons, or armor onto Entrana, because that's the island of the monks. But necromancy is an entire load of new equipment. Had they programmed necromancy equipment to be blocked on Entrana? Could you take stuff from the necromancy skill onto Entrana? So I gave it a go, because everyone else was off killing endgame bosses, and I went, no, I'm going to walk onto Entrana. Walk on fine. No problem at all. And I kind of pulled the guy aside. I'm like, hey, so these monks were like totally cool with me just walking onto Entrana, fully kitted up as a necromancer. And he went, yeah, right, we'll add the equipment onto the don't take on list. But it was that kind of weird interaction that I was looking for when I was there. And that's the kind of stuff that I love. I'm not even sure where this... What about Glariel's tomb? Didn't even check. Brilliant. That's exactly what we want to know. That's the kind of stuff that I was doing. It was really weird because you had all these mods looking around at all of the kind of RuneScape testers, all the really high-skilled YouTubers and Twitch streamers, and then there was me in the corner just doing random stuff. And they even came over and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm just seeing if I can use this to do this and this and this and this and this. And they're like, can you? I'm like, yeah, turns out you can. And there was a moment of silence and they went, well, you shouldn't. So we fixed a lot of that stuff. To be fair, they were very receptive to feedback. I'm not going to give you any kind of hints and tips on how power level the skill and how to break it, but what I was able to break, they fixed very quickly. That's what I will be genuine. One of them even said, Josh, we've brought you over for your opinions on the skill, not to play test it, not to like QA test it. We don't want you to do testing. We want you to give your opinion on what the skill is and how it works. And I went, well, my opinion is going to change heavily based on how much I can break of it. Now, if it turns out that it's super useful everywhere, that might be a bit overpowered. If it turns out that I can just break some of this, great. What else was I able to break? There were a couple of spelling errors and name variations were different in certain places. Some equipment stuff didn't work together with other things. There were a few places where it shouldn't have worked, where it did, and where it did work, where it shouldn't. Because obviously, necromancy is a brand new combat style. It's a brand new... It's not melee, it's not range, it's not mage. It's a brand new combat style. So, how does that interact with things that use protection prayers? Because there are some enemies that pray against melee, mage, and range. Can you just take necromancy style to enemies that pray against melee, mage, and range and just mitigate all of their mechanics? Yeah. Turns out I could. And they went, yeah, we'll sort this out, don't worry. We'll fix this. We'll add in some exceptions to this. We'll make it work. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. But no, that's what we were doing. Because I think I can tell you about this. They said that I can't go into super details about it, and that's absolutely fine. 4 combat styles in RuneScape 3. Yeah, there will be that. Hazelmere is waiting. Hang on. Yeah, Hazelmere needs something. It's not the combat square. It's more the combat pyramid now. So you've got melee, mage, and range, and then necromancy is kind of like across all of them. It's interesting. It's very interesting.